Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It's Brandy, Mabra, and I am so excited because we're talking about money and how big is too big when it comes to your revenue. And are you thinking big enough is what I'll say. And 9 to 10 chances you probably aren't. You probably are not. Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Because we are in our human bodies, we come from our own experience, from what we've seen, what we know is possible, how we grew up, the financial status that we had. I know for me, I grew up with no money, and so even as a kid, there's a running joke. So I'm not really a big fan of baked beans. And I've gotten to a place where I have an appreciation for baked beans if they're cooked right. They have to have some barbecue sauce, they have to have some sugar, gotta be just right. Maybe some bacon that can maybe taste it or zesty them up. But before that, my only memory of baked beans is I remember my dad got really creative. My dad's actually an amazing cook. And he opened up the cabinet and there was only baked beans and macaroni and cheese. And so I don't know why he did not make them like individually, but what he did was he mixed up the baked beans with the macaroni and cheese and made a casserole. And I haven't ate baked beans ever since. That was the story until I got older. So now, I'm at a good cookout. I'll dive into them. But that's a memory. That is a memory for me. So that is how I grew up. I grew up where, money doesn't grow on trees and you have to rob Peter to pay Paul and all the things. And I've talked to a little bit of my money story. And so as I've gotten further into my financial career, especially being in a management leadership over 6-figure salaries, managing $20+ million budgets, I've had to check my money mindset, and especially as an entrepreneur making more money, I've had to really get very clear on what's my money story, how do I view money, what am I thinking about money, the relationship with it. So very common, it happens with my clients too. What I love is where I can show people what's possible, and I'm real quick, like I'll 10x you real fast, right? And I believe there's a book called 10x is better than 2x. And the reason why is because when you 10x your goal, you can see instantly where's the gap, right? So when you go after like a bigger source of revenue, you're going to see what am I missing? Clearer than if you just think from a 3x perspective compared to a 2x perspective. So when it comes to the revenue, same thing. We have clients who want to be 7 figures. We have clients who are at the multi-7 who want to be 8 figures. And one of the things I will say first is revenue, really, when we think about it, it's a vanity metric. There are a lot of practices that make a certain amount of revenue, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a healthy practice, doesn't mean that they're profitable, doesn't mean that they're doing better than another practice that might make less money. There's actually practices that make less money and actually have more profit and feel more rich compared to the practices that bring in more revenue. So this isn't about, in order for you to have an amazing business, you have to bring in a certain amount of revenue. This conversation is about, do you know how much revenue you want to make? Like, are you clear on what the end goal is, right? And especially too, if you jump into the social media world, everything is like, $1 million, $1 million, 7 figures, which I love it. However, there is more, like if you want to have more. And there is also less if you want to have less. So there's no judgment here. I have clients who are like, I have no desire to have like an 8-figure practice. I have no desire to get to a multi-7 practice. I have no desire, there's some, to get to a 7-figure practice. What I want from my practice is to be happy, to be healthy, to be able to own my time, to make an impact, to have purpose. So to get very clear on how much money do you want to make, because that's the missing piece. Do you know? And are you capping off your potential? Because this is what I also find. People will say, I don't want to have $1 million practice, or I don't want to have an 8-figure practice, or I don't want anything in between. Not because they don't necessarily want it, it's because they don't know how to get there. So with my expertise, if you don't know, let me shed some light on that for you. It's 20 million plus, right? So those are the budgets. So whenever I think about the amount of revenue that a practice can bring in, when I see $1 million, yes, absolutely. Like, round of applause, I'm clapping, but you're not done yet if you want to make more money. So if you're listening to this episode or you're watching it and you're thinking, wow, 20 million, that sounds good. How can I get to that? What does that require? What does that look like? Then I can tell you. I can tell you exactly what it looks like, and I can tell you exactly what you need to do, because that's exactly what we do inside of Private Practice CEO, is we teach private practice owners how to scale their revenue profitably and how to make sure that they're setting themselves up to be in the vision that they want to be. So for the clients who want to make multiple millions of dollars, then that's exactly the work that we're doing. Now, is this like an overnight thing? This is not a get rich quick type of thing. No, it is a process. Let me tell you, it is a process. And I've said this before, there are times where there are owners who come to me and we start working with them and they're at 7 figures, but it's like, it's not healthy. It's not good. It's not profitable. It is actually very taxing. It's exhausting. There's usually a lot of team issues that are happening, or they're not clear on their leadership or how they need to show up, or they've given away like these big titles and it doesn't make sense, or they have leaders that might be good, but they don't know how to really work with them or how to lead them or how to make sure that they're set up for success. Or we have the multi-6-figure practice owner who is like, 7 figures sounds great and wonderful and fantastic, but I don't even have this foundation, right? Or I've been able to grow as a clinician, but now I've hired all these providers and their schedules aren't filled and I'm struggling, and I have an admin, but I don't think I have the right admin, and I need more, full-time people and W-2s who are actually going to be engaged, but I have all these contractors and part-time people. In order to make sure that it makes sense, then again, you always start off with vision first, because when you look at your vision, you're going to be able to tap into what is the mindset that you have, what are you showing up with, why do you want what you want? So if you want the 8-figure practice, why? Why is that enticing to you? Is it because it sounds good? Is it because I need to make more money? Is it because I have an expensive family? For me, I have a freshman, a sophomore now officially in college, and he's expensive. He is very expensive. And we are in process of working on his money, his relationship with money, and making sure that he has his own money as a 20-year-old. However, he is not very shy to ask me, hey, Mom, you got any money? But part of my goals and why I'm building what I'm building, and part of the reason why I want to build wealth, and part of the reason why I want to bring more revenue into my business, is because I want to make sure that he is set up, right? I want to make sure that he can see and he can experience how to build wealth and what it looks like to be wealthy, and to make sure that he's set up for success. So part of the work that I do in the world is to make sure that I am setting not only private practice owners up, but also making sure I'm setting myself up so that way I can set him up, right? So what is that for you? Why do you want to make the amount of money that you want to make? Why do you not want to make the amount of money that you think that you want to make, right? And so getting very, very clear on what that vision is and starting there first. Even with my son, he's clever. He's so clever. He's gotten to the point where I got a text message and it said that he needed money, right? And he sent this little cute baby picture of himself when he was I think he was maybe not even 2. So cute. He had on a little stocking cap to the side, and he's holding these 2 little cars, and and then underneath it says please. And so of course I'm of course you can have my whole wallet. What do you want? What do you need, baby? So he's smart with that. So part of my why is to make sure, again, that he's set up for success. So that way as he gets older, if he happens to send me a baby picture again, then I can make sure that he's good. When we think about revenue, there's the gap between what, the 7-figure practice, right? So let's say if you're at $20,000 a month, and you were trying to get to the 7-figure practice. So the 7-figure practice is $83,000 a month. If you do the math, quick, dirty math, then you can account for how many appointments you might need, the amount of providers that you would need in your practice, and then taking into consideration your payment model. So if you take insurance, what is your average reimbursement rate? And if you are private pay, what is your rate, for whatever appointments that you have? Quick math. when we start to think about like the multi 7-figure practice, that starts to get a little bit more complicated, right? So when you are jumping from $20,000 months to now $300,000 months, that's different, right? And so that becomes a little bit more sophisticated. So there is a great client that I have, amazing, and so many wins. And so this is how you can shortchange yourself when we're on the scale from 20,000 to 300,000. So this particular client, she thought that she was just going to make $500,000 this year. And this is the power of having a coach, actually. And this is even more of a testament to, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because I basically helped her double the amount of money that she's going to make inside of her practice. So she thought like, I'm just going to make $500,000 this year. And I had to laugh because she's already been there, done that. And we're like halfway through the year, right? So she is going to hit 7 figures this year. The world would have to almost end, I would say, just to be exaggerating for her not to hit 7 figures this year. So she doubled the amount of revenue that she thought that she could make. She also has where it's changed the dynamic of her family. Her husband is now able to help her more. It's just an amazing story, and it's an amazing testimony to not only the hard work that she's doing, but also what she's done is she's invested a lot in herself to make sure that she's set up for success. She has poured into her community. She has poured into herself. She pours into her team. She makes sure that her clients are taken care of, like her patients are taken care of, like everything. It's so good. It's so good. And so when we think about the practice model, you will shortchange yourself. So I use that as an example because she is at, the 7-figure mark. So that's $83,000 a month, but she thought that she was only going to make $500,000. So there is also another case study with Courtney where Courtney is, same thing, 7 figures. And so year after year, her revenue has doubled. And she did not think that that was possible. So a lot of times what's happening inside of your practice, you think this is my forever, this is my always, or this is what's possible, but there's so much more that you can do. When you think about the $300,000 a month practice, that is where not only do you have maybe providers, providers on top of providers, there's also different service lines that you can incorporate there. There are multiple locations that you can incorporate as part of that model. And so this is where people start to think like, oh, I don't know if I want like a second location or a third location. I don't know if I want like 50,000 providers inside of my practice, or I don't know if I want to bring in a different type of service line, or maybe go deeper in a service that we could offer within our specialty, or we could bring in a different type of specialty. So depending on your area of expertise and depending on reimbursement from insurance for those of you who are taking in insurance, or depending on how much you can charge. So like if you can charge a good 4-figure price point for a service that you provide, then you can get to that revenue quicker than if it's just maybe I'm getting paid a low amount of money for a visit, right? And so making sure that you understand your practice model, making sure you understand what you want from your practice, how you want to help, how you want to make an impact, the type of team that you want. The other thing is a lot of times some of our clients, I don't want a big team. So I don't necessarily want that strain or I don't want to have that many people who might require something from me, or I don't want to necessarily manage a leader, right? So when you get to a certain team size, then you do have to start to think about, do I need to hire a director, or do I need to hire a manager, or do I need to hire like a COO in order for me to maintain the day-to-day? And leading through leaders, that's a skill set, right? And so really depending on when you think about your practice, when you think about how you want to make a difference, when you think about the day-to-day of what the work that you're doing, when you think about your team, when you think about like just even when you sit down and visualize what you think is going to happen inside of your practice, what comes up for you? So we have clients where they sit there, they close their eyes and they see like, I see my practice is busy. I see people moving around. I see, patients coming in and out. I see multiple people inside of a practice. I don't see a virtual setup. So that helps you to know what kind of practice model that they need and what they want to build. And then that also is a telltale sign with the type of money that they can make in revenue inside of their practice too. So that clarity is priceless, and it's really important for you to really think about before you just pull a number out of your butt and say, I think I just want to make, $20 million, and I don't know why, or I don't know how, or I don't know what I'm going to do, then work with a coach. So given the fact that I now officially have clients who have put their spouses in a position to pick how they want to work, whether it's working inside of my client's practice or maybe doing something else in the world, right? In order to make the life easier for them both when it comes to their families, I think it's important for you to get very clear on what kind of lifestyle do you want to build for yourself. When you think about what's going to make you happy or what your version of wealthy is, I love that analogy where people can think, what is your version of wealthy? So if your version of wealthy is, I want to be able to vacation 3 or 4 times a year. I would love to own a vacation home. I want to drive a Range Rover. I want to be able to have my kids in private school. That's a different price point, compared to, well, I want to be able to take a vacation maybe once a year. I don't need a Range Rover. I would be cool with maybe driving a Lexus or maybe a Ford. I don't know. No judgment here. And I want to be able to own my days, but I necessarily don't want to have a big team, right? And so I don't necessarily want to have that type of expense. Or I maybe want to pay myself a modest salary. Like, there's no right or wrong here. So everybody's version of freedom and everybody's version of success is their own, right? So what I think is my version of success and my version of freedom is going to be completely different than yours, and that's okay. So the point of the conversation is get very clear on what do you want, how do you want to show up in your life, and what's going to get you excited about the amount of money that you want to make. Because either way, in order to make it, there's going to be action that you're going to have to take. There's going to be some risks that you're going to have to take, and you're going to have to be excited about the risks that you're taking. There might be some failures, built in there too, with some lessons learned. And so if you are going after a goal when it comes to your lifestyle, or going after a goal when it comes to setting your family up, or making sure that there's a bigger purpose and mission and vision for why you're doing what you're doing, then it makes it so much easier for you to get to your revenue goals, compared to if you're just kind of like, I'm just doing this because I saw so-and-so do it, and it looks like that's what I'm supposed to do, or it seems like it's successful, or it looks like that they make a lot of money. That's only going to get you so far, right? And so you want to make sure that it's very intimate to you, so that way when you decide, I want to make X amount of dollars a year, which means that I'm going to make X amount of dollars a quarter, which means I'm going to make X amount of dollars in the month, and that means I'm going to make X amount of dollars per week, then you know why, and you can attach it to something that's deeper than just the money piece of it. You can decide how much money you want to make. You can decide how you want to make it. You can decide how you want to show up in your practice. The sky is the limit. And actually, you can even remove the sky if you want to. If you're in a place where you need help to see what is exactly possible for you, then I am hosting the Private Practice CEO Masterclass for this month, and you can go ahead and see the show notes where you can register today. So inside of that masterclass, we go through all things business and leadership when it comes to your private practice, how you can show up as an empowered leader to grow and scale your team, how you can make sure that you're set up for success when you're engaging your team business culture. It's just real CEO conversations. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's completely free. It's 60 minutes. It's a really great experience. There's no slides. It's very organic feeling, no pitch, just real-time conversations about what's happening in healthcare, what's happening in private practice, and to make sure that you're set up for success. So go ahead and see the show notes for you to register today, and I'll see you there. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.